I promise you that, I don't feel that way right now, but I am not going to let this crush me. And I look forward to the future and making more improvements. And yeah, hopefully next year.
When you play a player like her and she plays really well, it's like, there's nothing you can do. And I feel like today, I wouldn't say nothing because every match you play a part in, but I feel
Don't
like
have to tell you, there was a lot of criticism. Your opponent, Sabalenka, her comments right after the match, pretty much saying it was because she played poorly instead of praising.
Coco Gauff makes history. Time Magazine's jaw-dropping announcement will give you chills. Welcome back to Chatterbox, the one and only corner of the internet where the tea is always piping hot. The stories are always bigger than life, and we never, ever let you leave without your jaw somewhere on the floor. If you are new here, first of all, where have you been? And second of all, buckle up because you picked the absolute perfect day to stumble onto this channel. And if you are a loyal member of the Chatterbox family, you already know that when we say we have massive news, we mean the kind of massive that makes you spill your coffee, grab your phone, and immediately start texting everybody you know. Today, we are talking about a woman who has become so much more than an athlete. We are talking about a cultural force, a generational talent, and quite frankly, one of the most important young voices on the entire planet right now. We are talking about the incomparable, the unstoppable, the absolutely breathtaking Coco Gauff, and the announcement that just dropped has the entire sports world buzzing from New York to Paris to Tokyo and everywhere in between. Time Magazine, the gold standard of cultural authority, the publication that has graced its covers with the faces of presidents, revolutionaries, Nobel Prize winners, and the most consequential human beings of our modern era, has just officially named Coco Gauff as one of the top 100 most influential people in sports. Let that sink in for a moment. The Time 100, the list that does not hand out its spots like participation trophies. The list that requires you to have genuinely, undeniably, and measurably moved the needle on a global scale. And Coco Gauff, at just 21 years old, has earned her place on it with every ounce of her extraordinary being. This is not just a tennis story. This is not just a sports story. This is the story of a young black woman from Delray Beach, Florida, who dared to dream so loudly that the entire world had no choice but to stop and listen. And today on Chatterbox, we are going to break down every single magnificent detail of why this honor is not just deserved, it was practically inevitable. Now let us rewind the clock, because you cannot truly appreciate where Coco Gauff is right now without understanding the absolutely wild, cinematic journey that brought her here. Cast your mind back to the summer of 2019. The world was a different place, and the tennis world was operating on its usual rhythms, governed by the titans and legends who had dominated the sport for over a decade. And then, onto the sacred, pristine grass of Wimbledon's center court walked a 15-year-old girl with two puffs in her hair, a racket that looked almost comically large for her teenage frame, and a calm, steely focus in her eyes that was completely and utterly unnerving for someone her age. What happened next became one of the most talked-about moments in modern tennis history. Coco Gauff, a 15-year-old qualifier who had barely finished her sophomore year of high school, walked out onto that court and defeated Venus Williams, a living legend, a 7-time Grand Slam champion, and the woman Coco herself had grown up idolizing on her bedroom wall. The internet did not just go crazy. It caught fire. Every sports outlet, every entertainment publication, every Twitter thread and Instagram story was consumed by this one name, Coco. But here is where the Coco Gauff story diverges from every other flash in the pan, overnight sensation story that the sports world has chewed up and spat out over the years. The spotlight that descended on her after that Wimbledon moment was not warm and gentle. It was a blazing, relentless, punishing glare that would have sent most grown adults running for cover. The expectations were immediately astronomical. Every match she played was treated like a referendum on whether she was the real deal or just a lucky kid who had caught lightning in a bottle. The critics were circling like sharks. The pressure was suffocating. And she was a teenager who, in any normal universe, should have been worried about prom dates and college applications, not about managing a global brand, navigating press conferences in multiple languages, and living up to comparisons to Serena Williams herself. The weight of that was immense, and nobody would have blamed her for crumbling under it. She did not crumble, not even close. What Coco Gauff did instead was something far more impressive and far more instructive than simply winning tennis matches. She grew. She struggled publicly, lost matches she was favored to win, faced the kind of heartbreak that only an elite athlete can truly understand, and she processed all of it with a wisdom and a grace that left seasoned sports commentators shaking their heads in disbelief. The 2026 Australian Open in Melbourne arrived with enormous expectations for Coco, and she delivered some genuinely thrilling tennis in the tournament's early rounds. Her fourth-round victory over the talented Karolina Machova was the kind of performance that reminded everyone why she belongs in the absolute elite echelon of the sport, a display of aggressive, confident tennis that had the Melbourne crowd roaring. But sport is cruel, and tennis is perhaps the cruelest of all the major sports in how suddenly and completely the momentum can shift. The quarterfinal against Alina Svitolina became one of those brutal, grinding matches where nothing goes quite the way you need it to, where your best shots find the net at the worst possible moments, and where the physical and mental demands of a Grand Slam tournament begin to compound in ways that are almost impossible to manage. Coco lost that match, and she spoke about it afterward with characteristic honesty, describing how nothing was working and acknowledging that she would need to go back and figure out the answers. Now, lesser champions, lesser people, would let a quarterfinal exit at a Grand Slam fester into a crisis of confidence. They would start questioning their preparation, doubting their game plan, and approaching the next tournament with the metaphorical armor already dented. But here is what makes the Time 100 recognition so perfectly timed and so perfectly apt. Coco Gauff does not operate that way. She had already demonstrated her relentless commitment to continuous improvement in the months leading up to the Australian Open, having brought in biomechanics specialist Gavin McMillan specifically to work on refining and strengthening her serve. That kind of proactive, detail-obsessed approach to self-improvement is the hallmark of truly great champions. The ones who do not wait for a problem to become a crisis before addressing it, but who are constantly, restlessly searching for ways to get fractionally better every single day. It is the mentality of a world number one. It is the mentality of someone who is not satisfied with being great and who will not stop until they are undeniable. And speaking of undeniable, let us talk about the current, real-time drama that is unfolding on the WTA Tour right now, because the tennis world in late February 2026 is absolutely crackling with tension and storylines that are almost too good to be true. The Middle East swing of the tour, culminating at the prestigious Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships, turned into an absolute thriller, and Coco Gauff was right at the center of all of it. With world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka and world number 2 Iga Swiatek both choosing to skip the Dubai tournament, the draw blew wide open and presented a massive opportunity for the players ranked just below the top 2 to make a significant move in the rankings and make a significant statement heading into the crucial North American hardcourt season. Coco came into Dubai as the highest-ranked American player, sitting at world number 4, and immediately found herself in fiercely contested matches that tested every dimension of her game. Her match against the experienced Belgian player Elise Mertens was a genuine battle, the kind of claustrophobic, tension-filled encounter where every single point felt like a miniature war. Coco fell behind in the first set, found herself staring at the possibility of an early exit, and then did what great champions do. She dug deep, raised her level, and ground out an absolutely vital victory. It was not pretty, it was not dominant, but it was winning, and sometimes winning ugly is the most impressive thing a champion can do. The quarterfinal against the 17-year-old Filipino sensation Alex Ila was another fascinating chapter in the Dubai story. Ila had announced herself to the tennis world in spectacular fashion in the weeks leading up to Dubai, with a run of results that suggested this young woman was very much ready to compete with the sport's best. Coco, to her enormous credit, took care of business in that match with the kind of experienced, measured performance that demonstrated why there is still a significant gap between a rising star and an established, proven champion. But even as Coco advanced, the story that was quietly building in the other half of the draw was about to deliver a gut punch that sent shockwaves through the American tennis community. Jessica Pegula, Coco's compatriot and former doubles partner, was on an absolute tear in Dubai. The New York native, whose fighting spirit and relentless tenacity have made her one of the most respected and feared players on the WTA Tour, was playing some of the best tennis of her career. And the crescendo of that brilliant Dubai run came in the semifinals, where Pegula and Gauff found themselves on the same side of the draw. But let us zoom out from the tactical and the statistical, because as delicious as the rankings battle is, and as thrilling as the on-court drama will continue to be, the reason Coco Gauff is on the Time 100 list is about something far larger and far more profound than tennis. It is about what she represents. It is about who she is when the racket is put down, when the press conference microphones are switched off, and when she is navigating the world as a 21-year-old woman who happens to occupy one of the most visible and consequential public platforms on earth. Because Coco Gauff has never been willing to be just a tennis player. She has always understood, with a political and social awareness that is frankly astonishing for someone her age, that the platform she has built through her excellence on the court comes with a responsibility and an opportunity to do something meaningful in the world. She has spoken out on racial justice with a clarity and a courage that made adults twice her age reach for their notes. She has raised her voice on climate change and environmental responsibility, ensuring that her younger fans understand that being a global citizen means caring about the world that all of us share. She has consistently advocated for gender equality in sports, pushing back against the persistent and infuriating disparities in prize money, media coverage, and public recognition that continue to plague women's sports even in this supposed age of progress. She does all of this not with the calculating, brand-managed caution of an athlete being advised by a PR team, but with the authentic, fired-up urgency of someone who genuinely believes that her voice matters and who refuses to waste it on comfortable silence. And the fashion, the culture, the pure IT girl energy that she radiates whenever she steps outside the tennis arena. That is a whole other dimension of her influence that deserves its own breathless appreciation. Coco Gauff walking into a room is an event. Whether she is gracing the red carpet at the Met Gala in a look that immediately becomes the most talked-about ensemble of the evening, or whether she is sitting courtside at a basketball game in a streetwear outfit that somehow looks like it was pulled directly off a Paris runway, she brings an effortless, magnetic style energy that has made her a true fashion icon for Gen Z. The luxury brands want her. The streetwear labels want her. The high fashion houses want her. And yet, somehow, through all of it, she maintains this incredible authenticity that keeps her grounded and relatable. She will finish a photo shoot for a major fashion magazine and then go home and post a TikTok about her favorite anime series. And somehow both of those things are completely, perfectly, 100% Coco. That is the magic of her. And that is what the Time 100 recognition is really celebrating. It is celebrating the fact that Coco Gauff has somehow managed to be all of these things simultaneously: a world-class athlete, a passionate activist, a fashion icon, a voice for her generation, and a down-to-earth, genuinely sweet human being, without any of those identities contradicting or diminishing the others. She contains multitudes, and she wears them all with extraordinary confidence. In a media landscape that is constantly trying to put public figures into neat, manageable boxes, Coco Gauff refuses to be reduced. She is everything, all at once, and the world is better for it. There is a deeper historical context to this moment that we should not allow to pass without acknowledgement, because Coco Gauff's prominence in the sport of tennis carries with it the weight of a legacy and a responsibility that she has always seemed to understand intuitively. The world of tennis has a complicated and powerful history with race, a history that was most dramatically and beautifully rewritten by Venus and Serena Williams over the course of their extraordinary careers. The Williams sisters did not just win tennis matches. They dismantled barriers, challenged assumptions, and forced the establishment of the sport to confront its own exclusions and prejudices. They made it possible for little black girls to look at a tennis court and see themselves as belonging there, as potential champions rather than rare exceptions. Coco Gauff is the direct beneficiary of that legacy, and she knows it, and she honors it in everything she does. When she speaks about the Williams sisters, there is a reverence and a gratitude in her voice that goes beyond admiration for their athletic achievements. She understands the price they paid, the battles they fought, and the doors they opened specifically so that she could walk through them without having to fight quite as hard just to be allowed in the room. And by becoming the globally recognized, highly influential champion that she has become, she is now adding her own chapter to that legacy. The world #1 ranking remains the great unfinished business on her list, the prize that she has spoken about wanting with such transparent hunger and determination. With Sabalenka and Swiatek still firmly entrenched at the very top of the rankings, the path to #1 requires Coco to string together the kind of sustained consistency that leaves no room for early exits or missed opportunities. The Dubai quarterfinal loss and the Australian Open quarterfinal loss are the kinds of results that cost precious ranking points and make the climb steeper. But Coco has been in steep climbs before, and she has a very reliable habit of being at her absolute best when the mountain is at its most demanding. The Jessica Pegula subplot adds a fascinating competitive wrinkle to the American tennis narrative that will play out dramatically over the coming months. Pegula is a genuinely formidable player whose aggressive baseline game and mental toughness make her a legitimate threat to anyone on the tour on any given day. The prospect of two American women battling each other for the title of top American while simultaneously pushing for the top rankings in the world is exactly the kind of storyline that gets casual sports fans invested and tennis obsessives absolutely giddy with excitement. And at the center of it all, setting the standard and driving the conversation, is Coco Gauff, whose very presence elevates every tournament she enters and every rivalry she participates in. Here is the bottom line. The thing that we want you to take away from all of this reporting and reflection and celebration today on Chatterbox. The Time magazine announcement is wonderful news, and it is richly, completely deserved. But in the grand arc of what Coco Gauff is going to accomplish over the course of a career that is still in its early chapters, it is going to look like a very early milestone on an incredibly long and spectacular road. She is 21 years old. She has 2 Grand Slam singles titles. She has been named one of the most influential athletes on the planet. She has inspired millions of young people, changed the conversation around athlete activism, redefined what a modern sports superstar can and should be, and she is just getting started. The best of Coco Gauff, as almost impossible as this is to fully comprehend given how brilliant she already is, has not happened yet. The greatest matches of her career are still in the future. The most important speeches she will give are still unwritten. The chapters of her story that will be talked about for generations are still blank pages waiting to be filled. And that, Chatterbox family, is the most exciting thing of all. We get to watch it happen in real time. We get to be the generation that says we were there when Coco Gauff became Coco Gauff, when this extraordinary young woman from Florida conquered the tennis world and the cultural world simultaneously and made it look like the most natural thing in the world. Every time she steps onto a court, we get a front-row seat to history being written by one of the most gifted and most complete athletes of her generation. Every time she speaks into a microphone at a press conference or a podium or a television camera, we get to hear from someone whose perspective genuinely matters and whose influence genuinely shapes how young people think about the world. Time magazine saw it. The WTA Tour knows it. The entire sports world recognizes it. And here on Chatterbox, we have been shouting it from the rooftops since day one. Coco Gauff is generational. She is iconic. She is exactly the kind of champion that the world needs right now, and we could not be more excited to continue watching her story unfold in all its breathtaking, heart-stopping, barrier-breaking glory. Now here is what we need from you, because this conversation is not complete without the Chatterbox family weighing in with everything you have got. Does Coco Gauff deserve to be on the Time 100 most influential people in sports list? And is this the beginning of an era of complete global dominance, or does the competition from Sabalenka, Swiatek, and now a surging Jessica Pegula make 2026 the most challenging year of her career? Who do you think wins the battle for the American #1 ranking by the end of the year? And do you believe Coco can finally crack the world #1 spot before the season is done? Fire every single one of your hot takes, your predictions, your love letters to Coco, and your spicy debate starter comments down below, because we are reading every single one, and we are absolutely here for the chaos and the conversation. If this video gave you chills, if it made you proud, if it made you excited, or if it simply reminded you why you fell in love with the sport of tennis in the first place, please do us a huge favor and smash that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds, it means the world to this channel, and it tells the algorithm that the Chatterbox family is real, it is loud, and it is absolutely not playing around. Share this video everywhere. Send it to your tennis-loving friends, your pop culture-obsessed cousins, Your coworkers who need to understand why Coco Gauff is the most important athlete of her generation, because everyone deserves to be part of this conversation. And if you are somehow, inexplicably, watching Chatterbox without being subscribed, please fix that time we show up here. We are Chatterbox. We love Coco Gauff. We love each and every one of you, and we will see you in the next one. Stay fabulous, stay fierce, and never stop serving absolute aces in everything you do.